This episode of the Grim and Bloody Theater is brought to you by Left Coast Entertainment. Welcome to the Grim and Bloody Theater. Today we have Laurie Evans Taylor, writer and director of Bed Rest, which has been released today, courtesy of Tubi, as part of their ever-expanding catalog of horror movies. And we are excited to have been given the opportunity to speak with you, Laurie, on this day, which is a very nice day for a good horror movie, I must say. We enjoyed it. It had quite a few elements that we all kind of lean into. Me personally, I love the supernatural part of it all. But we can jump right in and talk about your feature movie, your directorial debut. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much.
The film, the main part of the film, it starts with a woman who's pregnant, her husband, and they just purchased a house that is in need of repairs. And
sorely
needed repairs. I'd still take it though. That's a nice looking house. But it's beset by supernatural forces quite quickly. This is a beginning that we've all seen here, time and time again, with varying degrees of success. That was even mentioned in our written review. But I think that could have been both the opportunity and the challenge for you to take something that we're all familiar with and make it compelling. So talk to me, what was the challenge in knowing that the initial setup is something that the audience, I've seen this before, but at the end of the day, everyone's walking away saying, you know what, I wasn't ready to see this type of movie.
Yeah, well, I think for me, the seed of it all just came from the concept of bed rest, right? That's something we hadn't seen in a movie, and this is an idea that I had like 10 years ago. That was the first time I kind of came up with the movie, so this has been a long time coming to finally get it made. But I just remember I just had my daughter and I was thinking about bed rest. I was never fully on bed rest. I was on it like a day or two when my doctor told me, hey, you got to ease up a little bit. But I did have friends who had been on bed rest, and just not only the physical, what you go through, but the mental element of it, the psychological element was really hard on them. And for somebody who grew up loving horror, as I started to think about that, I was thinking, wait a second, this is a great way into either a horror movie or a psychological horror movie. And I was thinking, wait, has anybody done this before? And I was looking it up and nobody had done it. And I thought, oh, this is great. So, and granted, when you start talking about, and I don't want to do anything, a spoiler, but, we're talking about the supernatural. So if you're listening, you might want to go ahead 30 seconds. But ultimately, it is revealed to be a haunted house. And one of the main questions of haunted house movies is, why don't you ever leave? And just the bed rest concept of it all just answer that so easily. Like, oh yeah, you're on bed rest. You're stuck in this place. You can't leave. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to explore.
Now, the question that I have is that this is a very, there's a whole lot of activity, of action going on, a whole lot of things going on in this film. It's very physical, film. There's very minimal things in the way of a computer graphic imaging of effect or anything like this, and there's very physical scenes with the actors, and a lot of actual set pieces being used and things like that. Were there any behind the scenes, any issues, hurdles to get through with this production? Anything that went wrong or something like that? I'm
Well,
always fascinated by it.
yeah, I think there were definitely, one of the things about making movies is you have these movies you want to make, and then with budget and time you go, okay, well, this isn't possible over here. So there were certainly some things in terms of the scares. There was supposed to be a ceiling scare. There was supposed to be a few more things with the bathtub, and just ultimately we weren't able to shoot. But I would say we were able to get the majority of it, and most of it is pretty practical. I love practical filmmaking, and that was really important to me, that we do things as practically as possible, because this movie does kind of have a throwback feel. I'm inspired by movies of the 70s and the 80s. I grew up with a lot of those movies. So anything that could be done practically, I really wanted to do practically. And most of it we were able to do. We did need a little bit of help, obviously, with visual effects here and there, as you always do. But it wasn't led by that. It was led more by the emotional experience of the protagonist, and what she sees or what she doesn't see, and really leaning into sound, and hints of things that she sees, and to try to make it as ambiguous an experience and more of the psychological. Oh, is she really seeing these things? Is she not? And but yeah, we were able to do most of the things. Like, the tub drop was done with the green screen, but we did drop it, and everything else, the fall, the hands on the belly, the kids going up the closet, and then Delmy being pulled out again. Oh my gosh, spoilers. But all of that, they were just stunts. They were all done practically, which is really cool to be able to see. And it's fun. It's always a fun energy on set when you're doing stunts like that. And it was a blast.
Well, I was going to say, you put your lead character through hell. It's saying, I'm glad that you used a stunt person for as you mentioned, the tub scene.
Melissa didn't go Tom Cruise on it. Do all the stunts?
A little bit, right? When she's shaking it, that was all Melissa. Man, she was game, I gotta say. Melissa is amazing. She was a rock star on this, because you're right. I put her through a lot, but that was what was so exciting about it. When she read the script, she was so game and so interested in it, and she really understood what I was going for with the character, and she just went for it. And it is not an easy role. Because it's this actress being on screen for the entire movie. Everything is from her point of view, so the audience really has to lean into her experience and her journey, and there's so much involved with it. Obviously, there's the emotional levels of her past grief and mental health issues, but then there's also the horror and the physical nature, both of being stuck in bed, but then with the labor and everything else that kind of comes from that. I mean, she was just really game, and I loved working with her.
Well, yeah, my question was going to be about the effects and the visuals, which I truly enjoyed. I love the rover scene, which I'm not going to give that much away, but that rover, it's like the Roomba, just like, and you're just going like, I've never seen that done before in a film. And that was really incredible. And I really, truly appreciate the effects and the visuals of this film, because it wasn't too oversaturated with CGI and kind of like, hi, we're Tom Cruise. We're just going to go CGI all the way.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Roomba too. And that was a lot of fun, just on the writing side of it, because I think there's a lot of freedom with limitations. I mean, when you have all these limitations, you can go in so many different directions, but for the storytelling, here's this woman in a room and she can't get out. How is she going to see down the hall? And so it presents really fun possibilities. And then visually having fun with it, my DP, JP Bernier, who's I adore him. He's such a great collaborator. He was so great to work with, and he was a lot of fun to, we talked about what we wanted the look to be, and we got to play with a bunch of different looks, between the look of the film and then the look of the Roomba cam, and then the security cam as well. So it was fun to sort of play in these visual storytelling, visual elements of storytelling.
I was, don't want to give anything away, but the giant tarantula scene and the underwater scenes, beautifully done. Love that.
Great. Did you like the shark? Yeah.
The shark was excellent. You don't expect that in this, but that was great.
I liked it when Thanos jumped out of the portal. Oh, yeah. different movie.
Oh, same movie. I did want to ask you, this was shot in a house, not in a studio, right?
Both, actually.
Okay, so it's a beautiful house used. That's fabulous.
It was a really beautiful house. And so we shot it in Winnipeg, Canada. And so it's written as a lake house, but it's very hard to find a lake house there. So of course we had to do a little bit of cheating. That was off of a main drag in Winnipeg, but it was a beautiful house. And we ended up shooting the exteriors of the house, the downstairs foyer, and then upstairs hallway and the nursery at the house. But the bedroom and the bathroom, those were actually built on a stage. So we could really control how we shot that. And it really helped us in terms of the amount of time that we had, because we had 25 days, but we ended up shooting French hours most of the time. So it was about a 10-hour day. So it was really more like 22 days. And so it really helped us being able to shoot in the studio for those 2 weeks with the...
Well, I can see where, with the bathroom scene that did happen, I see where you would want that in the studio. Now, we've been having a very lighthearted conversation here, and I want to delve into something that I hope isn't a sore point. Now, you've done a bunch of TV work. This is your first feature-length film, and you've done a great job with it. I often talk about on my show, this is a producer's first feature-length film, and I'd be very happy with it. Yours does not look like a first attempt. Yours looks excruciatingly well polished. But you wrote this, and this was actually supposed to be done by MGM.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has had a journey. I laugh and say it's a labor of love, pun or no pun intended. It really has been.
I want to say that's the most realistic contraction scene in any movie right there. I love that one.
Yeah, so this has had an interesting run in that I had the idea about a decade ago, and then I finally ended up writing it in 2015. It went out as a spec, and it was during the time where they say, specs sell, don't go out with a spec, don't go out with it. And I ended up going out with it, and it got a lot of attention. It was one of those great moments as a writer where nobody knows your name on a Tuesday and everybody knows your name by Friday. And it was a really cool experience to have. And there was a preemptive deal. And so I was super excited. So we're going to make this movie. It's a contained movie, a great female lead, horror, like it's checking a lot of boxes. I'm thinking, okay, this is great. And then, just for so many reasons, things end up in the development churn, right? Yeah. There's so many different reasons for it. But ultimately it never found its place to be made. And so then when there was a possibility of the rights being re-upped and or re-optioned elsewhere, and I thought, what, I don't want to do this. I have skin in this game. This was very personal to me. And I thought, what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it my way. I come from theater. I directed theater before, so I knew I wanted to direct a feature at some point. And I just wanted to have agency in the process, because there's a lot of waiting around in Hollywood. You're waiting for somebody to give you that shot, to make your movie, to cast you, to give you that thing that you can direct. And I just got tired of waiting for my train, to be honest. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to be the train. This is my bed rest train. I'm gonna make this. And luckily, the script had a lot of good love in town. Writers take a lot of shit. Like in terms of not having a lot of power in the process, but scripts are the most important part. Like that's the building blocks. And I just held on. I knew that I had a script that people wanted to produce, and I just like attached myself like a little remora, like I'm on this. And luckily, the guys at Project X, so William Sherrick, Jamie Vanderbilt, and Paul Neinstein, they had just recently put together their new company, and these guys have so much experience in the film industry, and I've known them forever. So they were personal friends of mine and professional friends as well. And they were looking for things to do, and they found out Bed Rest was available, and then I wanted to do it. So we started talking about it, and they really championed me. They said, you know what, you need to tell this story, and we're going to back you, and we're going to find a way to do it. And I owe them everything, because they really helped me get this made. And then as soon as they came on, then we were really off to the races. We brought on Melissa after that, and then STX came on board, and yeah, got the train moving.
Cool. I was worried you were going to say there was like this massive Indiegogo funding that I hadn't seen, or maybe you'd bought a lottery ticket, because that's about the only way you could put together a movie of this quality on your own without a studio behind you. But I didn't realize you had somebody, which is very helpful. I'm so glad you had that.
I did. I had so much support, and just to know them personally too. I could come into this process just really humble. I've had this really eclectic career, and I have different kinds of tools in my toolbox, but the things that I didn't know, I really just leaned in, and I put myself through sponge mode for the last couple of years, and trying to meet with directors, meet with people in sound design and visual effects, to learn everything that I didn't know, or at least, as much as I could soak up. And then they were really helpful for me. I could always lean on them and say, I need you to explain this to me, and just humble myself, and then come in as a collaborator as well as a director.
I was going to say, speaking of soaking up, there's a subtle undercurrent here, and I'm going to use that pun. It's a lake house. The lady's pregnant. We're talking about her water breaking. Mm-hmm. She's in the bathtub for some very crucial scenes. There's this undercurrent of water, but also it's snowing outside. There's water outside, and of course there's no one can give anything away. Some watery other things going on in the house. Mm-hmm. Was that a thread that you were intentionally wove through it, or did it just work out that way?
It was intentionally there, and to be perfectly honest, it was supposed to be there a little bit more. But what we found was that we shot in Winnipeg, where there were some days that we shot that were negative 17 degrees Fahrenheit.
Friends.
So there were some things that we wanted to do water-wise, but literally we couldn't, because it was just impossible with weather or with the budget. So we tried to certainly lean into it where we could, and some things we couldn't.
Yeah, you're in trouble when the cat licks something in the house and the tongue sticks.
That would be bad. That cat was amazing, by the way. We had 4 cats. No, 3 cats, of course.
3 or 4 cats. That's not something you confuse easily here. Did something happen? Is there an
Yeah.
XP in this?
With no demise of cats. No, they all had their personalities. So there was the main cat who was very confident and would just hang out on the bed. But then for the scares and the cat having to react, we had to use another cat that was a little bit more of like a afraid cat.
You have a terrific cast here with this film, and I thought a perfect match for Melissa Day is Guy Burnett, as who has the most adorable English accent. I am like completely falling in love with him, and I just, he really brings a dimension, to the role. He's kind of shaded gray at first, where you're just not sure what his motivations are.
Yeah, he was frustrating. I mean, that's probably the intention.
Yeah, but then
what's wrong with you?
Right, but then you have him as a devoted and grieving dad, and so forth. Talk a little bit about Guy, and kind of what he brings to the role.
I love Guy Burnett. He's such a gem as a human being as well. And he's just a fantastic actor. I loved working with him because he comes from the theater. So we both kind of come from the same place there. He's just a very raw actor. And what I loved about his audition was that he does ride that line, because he can seem suspicious, but he also seems really loving, and he threads that needle really well. And it's hard to do, because this movie, everything is from Julie's perspective. So it's all through her lens. She can't see or hear what everybody is saying. So sometimes he does seem really supportive, but sometimes when, she's trying to overhear him, we start to wonder, what's he up to? Does he have nefarious intentions towards his wife? And so I thought that Guy was able to just find that middle ground so beautifully. He's just a real pleasure to work with.
That said, the lady playing the doula also did a very good job of that, her point. And again, don't want to give things away, but that made a nice little segue, little twists there. I like how it wound up at the end, very much.
Yeah. Edie Inkstetter, she's the doula, and this, I absolutely agree. That's the same thing when I watched her audition when I was casting. I watched a lot of audition tapes, and I always came back to Edie because, again, she rode that line so well between really great intentions, supporting doula, and I don't know, she might have an ulterior motive, and also a pleasure to work with. I was just really fortunate, because that's one of the things as a first-time director, dealing with actors and working with actors, and all of the actors that I worked with, they were so amazing, and just really came in game. And I have to tell you a story. I hope it's okay for Guy, but this tells you how amazing Guy Burnett is. The first day he arrived at night on a Tuesday. It was the last week of prep. And Wednesday, I was going to do some shot listing. Then we were having a production meeting. He was going to come in. We were going to hang out a little bit, and then he was going to do his fittings. So I'm in the shot listing session, and I get this call from the line producer. And he's like, okay, so everything's okay. But
conversation.
And always, my heart rate is going up. And he said, well, we're going to push the production meeting an hour because Guy went to the emergency room. I'm like, what do you mean? What's happening? And
explode.
Poor Guy. So he flew in. He had dental surgery like 2 weeks before. And with the altitude, it opened up his dental surgery. And literally the artery was exposed, and he was like shooting blood.
Oh,
And-
Watch out,
movie
movie.
started early.
And the movie started. I'm like,
We get a camera.
and
I was going to say you're the director. Going. Can I get a shot of this first?
Yeah.
Real quick.
oh my gosh, the poor guy. It was like a crime scene.
Oh.
And but he was he afterwards he came in and was hanging out and he did his fittings and we went out to dinner later that night, and that could have gone so wrong on so many levels, and it just shows you
It
what
just made my mouth hurt. I had that similar surgery with sutures.
Oh no.
So
Don't tell me about that.
oof.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
If I,
I was fortunate to work with such amazing people.
well, if we're going to talk about some of the actors, I'm going to bring up Andrew, Sebastian Billingsley Rodriguez. What an interesting young person he is. He's was this like The Shining, where he didn't know it was supposed to be a horror movie till the very end?
No, he knew. So here's the thing about Sebastian. I love Sebastian. He is a hoot. He's a hoot and a half. Because he was like 7 or 8 years old and he looks just younger. So he could play younger. And in his audition, so he did the audition, and then at the end, there was just like a section where you just talk about yourself, and he walks in with a hatchet and he was hilarious. And I'm like, this kid is so precocious and amazing. And he was so great to work with. He was such a bundle of energy, but he had that great like 70s spooky kid feel to him that I was really going for. And yeah, Sebastian was a trip. I loved him.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that he was great to work with. If I can keep, I don't want to. Oh, I've done something. Oh dear. There you go. I'm back. All right. If no one else minds, we chatted briefly, and we sort of started at the beginning, touching on this. For me, being the age that I am, this movie in its construction felt a lot like some of those very early 70s horror movies and some of the better early made-for-TV movies that we got to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like Cold Winter's Death and
That's a good one.
The House That Wouldn't Die and things like that. So was that intentional? How did that come in here? You did say that you like older movies.
Yeah, I think I grew up watching a lot of the 70s, 80s movies, and I love just the quality of a lot of those 70s movies. And so I also grew up loving Hitchcock and that kind of storytelling. And so that really served as an inspiration when I was writing it. I just that sort of the psychological storytelling, like Hitchcockian storytelling. So as a writer, I was leaning into that, and just visually, I wanted it to kind of feel like a 70s film or like early 80s film. And even when JP, my DP, and I were talking, we really wanted to lean into that with the visual elements as well. So we used vintage lenses, so things that would give it a softer edge. And we filmed in 1.85 instead of anamorphic, because we wanted it to feel a little bit boxier and to make it feel a little bit more claustrophobic and old school. So that definitely was part of the visual approach.
So were you doing it in film or doing it digital?
It was digital.
So it was digital.
Yes.
I occasionally like to ask technical questions. Can I ask what camera you used?
It was a red.
A red, okay. So some of us are still using the black magic. That's always the jokes. People who use DSLRs are laughed at by people who use black magic. People who use black magic are laughed at by people who use reds. And people who use reds are laughed at by people who use
They're using.
Yeah. Anyway, so glad to see that the digital work came out really well, and of course the house really helped with it too. I'm glad that you got to see your vision. I can really see in some of the visual aspects that early 80s feel coming through. Like I said, the script is what really felt 70s to me. The development of it and the characterization, certain aspects of that very ending. And, you know, don't want to give things away, but in a movie like that, there are endings that you expect. You expect a jump scare. Wake up, it was all a dream. Something like that. And you breathed a lot more depth into this one. And I really enjoyed that. I was guessing to the very end.
Okay.
So, I mean, you
I
can
was
see
going to mention that too. The whole movie is depth. It's
yes.
And you mentioned the script and how personal it was for you. This movie is also a huge risk because you introduced a setup that we all see and we'll all accept, and then you stayed with it all the way till the very end, and that also became the conclusion. So you say, I'm doing this, and you stay with it. And for Bed Rest, I thought that was, in watching it, it was almost a sigh of relief that you would allow the subject matter pretty much all of the screen time available to breathe and to mature. Guys, how many times do we actually get to see that? Where the log line of a movie has nothing to do with the movie, right? It's the initial setup, and we watch so many movies, and you kind of just read it and like, okay, so this is the premise of the movie, and 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the movie, it is something else. I mentioned that in the review that it was a welcome change into the horror genre, a movie that is unafraid to stick with what you originally intended. It wasn't just the selling point. It wasn't the elevator pitch, just to actually get your own story rolling. It was the story, and I thought it was very better off for it. So congratulations for that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I think both the horror elements, and then there's the horror element, the creep element, and then there's the emotional element. And going in, the intention was that the emotional element was just as important. And really following her journey, because it's an emotional journey. When you're stuck in one place, that's when all of those demons kind of come back up. And we've all been through COVID, right? We know what that means to have your life just stop, and suddenly you're stuck in a room and your mind just goes, and you're forced to deal with things that if you were out living your life, you wouldn't necessarily have to deal with. And so I felt like I really wanted to lean into that with Bed Rest, because it was a very organic exploration of that. And so I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it's a great film, people. So watch it on Tubi. Do it now.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It premieres
Kevin?
today. It premieres today.
That's where I watched it.
You can watch it right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're done watching us, go watch it.
Yeah. Do it tonight. Don't make me have to come chase you.
Go ahead, Joe.
That's maybe I've seen on Tubi
But
a long time.
But yeah, I don't, Kevin, Anthony, any last questions before I ask mine?
World's fastest land animal?
Oh yeah, me.
We're good. Go for it, Joe.
Okay.
Go, Joe.
Laura, where can people find you if they're looking for you?
If they're out there looking for where Lori is.
They're looking for me.
I love that.
I have an Instagram. You can find me there, although I am a horrible person at social media, I have to say. I dabble in it. I guess I'm
So you're not like Ryan Reynolds, where I exploit the hell out of it. Use it to the absolute limit and then some. Social media.
It depends. I mean, come on. Elon Musk says he dabbles in it too. So come on.
Yeah.
There's grades of dabbling.
That's true. I'm on the lower end of dabbling. It's fun. I like to look around and poke around at everybody else's, but I must say I'm pretty bad at social media. But you can find me there.
There we go. That's a good answer, people. So don't chuck at me. No.
Now you may have to check under a few different names, her married name, or depending on if it's a bill collector or what.
Right. Yeah. I keep people guessing. Oh, you think you found me? Nope. I'm over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Look under Jane Doe if you're a bill collector. Okay. If you're looking for Anthony Garone, send it to him.
Yeah, he died.
He died, unfortunately.
Well, of course, then we have the really, really big question. You've done so well with this. What's next?
What's next? Well, right now I'm co-writing the next Final Destination movie.
Oh, shit.
So that hopefully
Is that number 6?
It is. It would be
Oh, see, I got it right. I've watched them. They are good. They're
so
campy. They're silly, and you're in it for the deaths, like the Saw franchise.
I'm a Tony Todd fan, so you know, anytime if he can be in another Final Destination, I'm good. I'm there.
I love Tony Todd.
Someone figures out how to do another escalation, like a mass escalator death. That was definitely something.
They definitely have the best deaths in film series dealing with death.
Oh yeah, a lot of unique ones there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there are directors on right now, Adam Stein and Zach Lipovsky, and I'm co-writing with Guy Busick, who wrote Scream and Ready or Not. Zach and Adam both, they had this great thing of like, well, okay, what can we ruin? What can we ruin? So that's always the check mark. Okay, we're going to ruin this. So, we'll have some information on that in early next year, but that's been a lot of fun to work on.
Congratulations.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you very much, Laurie, for coming on the show and spending some time with us and talking about Bed Rest. It's been an absolute pleasure, and go watch it today. It's on Tubi.
We'd love to have you back talking Final Destination 6.
Hell, he has.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you watching Bed Rest and having me on. This is fun.
Yes, and by the way, you can also see the review, I think. Anthony, did you put up the review?
Yeah, on deathparadefilmfest.com.
Cool.
I will be posting a review. I will be posting a review on horrornews.net. For it, and please tell Guy Burnett that he has a gay fan base. Okay. He has a gay fan base.
I think he knows.
Oh, see?
Good for Guy, We'll have to bring Guy on. So just to make
there we go.
Swoon.
I kept thinking you could have done a shirtless scene with him. I mean,
Run, Laurie.
on.
Yeah. Come on. She did a bathtub scene. Where's the shower scene with him?
That's it.
Yeah, come on.
I get it. And he's going to be in that new movie Oppenheimer too.
Yes.
Isn't that the one with Christopher Nolan?
Nolan, yeah.
And if anyone who's
Are they doing a shower scene?
Now I'm intrigued. How much time do we have?
I don't know if he's doing a shower scene.
How much time we got? 3 minutes.
Well, he had some very good work in Ray Donovan as well, and that's where I first saw him. And so wonderful actor. Yeah. Wonderful actor, and hope to see more. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You have a great night.
Al, you want to send us out?
Watch horror films. Keep America strong.